Greetings, Leo and Leo rising. This is your Western forecast for February 2024. The major theme, one of the major themes for the month is marriage, partnerships, relationships, contracts, mediations, all forms of diplomacy. That is because there's going to be 5 planets in Aquarius. Having 3 planets in one sign is a major emphasis. To have 5 is sort of like off the charts. So there's like this incredible emphasis on in the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius is the exact opposite Leo. The opposite always deals with the other. The other is your significant other, your marriage, your partnerships, contracts. So there is an overemphasis in these areas. Also, the sun, it's going to be in Aquarius the first 3 weeks. Then in the last week, it goes into Pisces. And Pisces is going to shift it towards the 8th house. The 8th house puts a real spotlight on intimacy, sensuality, as well as a lot of big business. So there's a lot to unpack here. But before I break it down and see how it can apply to you, if you enjoy these types of videos and would like to see more of them, click like and subscribe, and don't forget to click on the notification bell so you can receive the latest postings. And if you go into the description box underneath the video, you'll find a direct link that will take you to my website where you can book an astrology reading or check out my 2-question offer. Let's start with the sun. Where the sun is shining is where that part of the chart, that part of your horoscope is being lit up. It's where one of your major priorities and attention is being drawn to. So the first 3 weeks of every February, the sun's in Aquarius. Aquarius, again, the opposite of Leo. So there's a real spotlight on all this partnerships, relationship issues. Now, Mercury, you got Mercury, Venus, Mars, and lastly, we're going to talk about transformational Pluto, but all in Aquarius, all triggering your 7th house. Now, many of you might be falling in love. Many of you might be getting a proposal, making plans for marriage. This could apply for a business partnership or getting a really important contract business offer. Well, that is partly with Mercury. Will be in Aquarius from February the 4th to the 23rd. Mercury is the messenger god. Mercury is the business savvy salesperson. Mercury in that 7th is really favorable for lots of negotiations or discussions with agreements and contracts. Then Venus. Now Venus will start off the first 2 weeks in Capricorn, and so I'll get back to that. But on February the 16th, Venus, benefic, charming, creative, sociable Venus will enter your 7th house when it enters Aquarius on February the 16th until March the 11th. That Venus brings in that power of attraction, brings in all this loving energy. It's really favorable for socializing, but also triggering maybe some romance, some infatuation. If you're in a relationship, if you're already married, that Venus is going to bring more harmony. It's going to bring more romance. Now we have Mars. Mars is the athletic, warrior, fiery energies. Mars is very outgoing and assertive. Mars in Aquarius, but the difference here is Mars goes into Aquarius once every 2 years. The Sun's in Aquarius once a year. Mercury's in Aquarius once a year. Venus is in Aquarius once a year. Now they're all lined up, making a major emphasis with that seventh house of partnerships. But now the Mars is really firing it up. Mars goes into Aquarius on February the 12th until March the 22nd, once every 2 years. Now, on one hand, Mars can be impulsive and fiery and aggressive. And when Mars moves through the seventh house, it could trigger and release resentments, arguments. But I find that most of the time, Mars is not about breaking up or separating relationships, but clearing the deck. Do you have some grievances, some tensions? That Mars will bring it to a head to clear the air, to clear the decks, to start fresh again. But this Mars is not going to be so harsh, so argumentative, because it's being joined by benefic Venus. Venus, the planet of diplomacy and cooperation. So that Venus-Mars is softening all that passion, being less aggressive and more harmonious. But Venus is desire and love. Mars is this physical, sexual energy. Venus and Mars together can be very romantic, very creative, but very sensual energies. And they're coming together from the 16th of February, when Venus finally goes into Aquarius. Mars already been in Aquarius from the 12th. And so the Venus will remain in Aquarius with Mars till March the 11th. So the last 2 weeks of February, you're having Venus and Mars that brings this passion, this romance, this sexuality, highlighting your seventh house of partnerships. This is really favorable for infatuation, starting a new relationship, or bringing more romance into an existing relationship, bringing more passion. And with the Mercury is what you are, that's all you could be discussing your relationships. It could be that's all you're doing is thinking about this new relationship. Now, it's not just marriage and partnerships and falling in love. It's also contracts, partnerships, all forms of negotiations. Now, the new moon will be in Aquarius on February the 9th. The new moon is when all that seventh house energy gets crystallized and gets very focused. So the new moon will draw your attention fully to that seventh house domain. But the new moon energy will last for 4 weeks until into the end of the first week or so of March. Now that's important because the sun is leaving Aquarius on February the 20th, moving into Pisces for those next 4 weeks. But the new moon in Aquarius is keeping that relationship, partnership energy really strong until the first part of March. But then assertive, aggressive Mars, passionate Mars, remains in Aquarius in your seventh house towards those last 3 weeks of March. So the relationship, partnership energy is not going away when the sun moves into Pisces. The sun in Pisces is just adding another layer, a more interesting point of view. The 8th house, when it comes to personal relationships, the 8th house is where I look to for intimacy, for sexuality. And with that Venus-Mars, in the 7th of partnership. And then the sun, the last week of February, going into the 8th house. This could be really awakening a really passionate, romantic. That could be a new relationship. That could be an existing relationship. Also, the 8th house brings in finance, credit, joint ventures, settlements, taxes. The 8th house also, along with intimacy and sexuality, it also has a lot to do with financial matters and responsibilities. And with that 7th house of partnerships so strong, then that 8th house can bring in the intimacy, but it can also bring in business negotiations, business offers. Could be a big contract is coming in, a big offer is coming in, or this is when by the last week of February is when you are discussing, there's the Mercury, about forming a business partnership. Now, before I go on, let's go back to, I said Venus goes into Aquarius on February the 16th. Venus, all that love and desire and cooperation. But Venus will be in a Capricorn the first 2 weeks of February. In fact, Venus went into Capricorn on January the 23rd until that's February the 16th. Now, Mars was also in Capricorn. I talked about in January's forecast, from the 4th of January until the 12th of February. So the last week of January, the first 12 days of February, Venus and Mars are also aligned, triggering, again, more passion and desire, but it's in Capricorn. And Capricorn is in your 6th house, because Capricorn is 6 signs past Leo. The 6th house deals with your day-to-day work routine, and it also deals with the physical body, more health matters. But with Venus and Mars dealing with health matters, you could be more energized, a lot more physical activity. And some of you might be wanting to lose weight, to feel more attractive, if that's something for you, or seeing the dermatologist, or the plastic surgeon, and really having this passion to look more attractive in the physical body. But the 6th house also deals with your job. And with that Venus-Mars, there could be attracting a lot of new work projects. Or if you're not working, this is excellent for attracting a new job, but triggering a lot of passion and a lot of excitement because of the Venus-Mars. Now, the sun goes into the 8th house on the 20th. Negotiating, planning Mercury goes into Pisces into the 8th house on the 23rd until March the 9th. So now the emphasis is on 8th house matters. The 8th house has a lot to do with financial contracts, negotiations. The full moon is keeping that in mind. The full moon is always 2 weeks after the new moon. So the new moon on February the 9th is planting a lot of seeds with relationships and partnerships. 2 weeks later, the full moon on the 24th, and that full moon, you could be feeling this emotional reactiveness for a couple of days, but it's going to be in Virgo, which is the 2nd sign past Leo. So the full moon, which is bringing a lot of matters from partnerships and contracts to light, to a culmination, but focusing on income. But Saturn taskmaster delaying Saturn will be hurting or in opposition to that full moon. So there could bring in some real frustrations or some delays with your expectations with income or negotiations. But it only lasts for several days. But keep in mind, that new moon that is keeping your focus on contracts, relationships, marriage, from February the 9th for 4 weeks. But this new moon is forming a hard angle called a square to Uranus. Now, Uranus is the planet of liberation, rebellion, unpredictability, the unconventional energies of Uranus. In fact, Uranus is the ruling planet for Aquarius. So here's the new moon in Aquarius in your 7th house, starting to draw all your focus and attention to partnerships and contracts, etc. But it's going to be very much stressed by that square aspect of tension from Uranus. So there could be some unexpected upsets or unexpected changes with all forms of relationships. And if you are in an uncomfortable, weak situation with a business contract partnership or a close personal relationship, you might be feeling a strong need to rebel, to break free. But it can also shake things up. Good with that Mars in the 7th. It's sort of like bring all this energy to a head and clear the decks and start fresh. Now, this is part of the forecast where I look to how is all this impacting your health, your body, your relationships, your business. Well, the Venus-Mars in the 6th house, the first 12 days, as I've mentioned, some of you may be wanting to really look more attractive, have some cosmetic treatments. But outside of that, there's a lot of robust energy physically. And that Mars remains, when that Mars goes into Aquarius, it's going for 6 weeks. It's going to be opposite Leo. So there's a lot of tension, but a lot of robust dynamic energies. So with relationships, already talked about this, but when it's in Capricorn, the Venus and Mars, the first 12 days, that could even bring an infatuation for some of you with a coworker. You might be starting a new job and you're really liking the people, or at your job they're bringing in a new employee, and that might bring in a new friendship, a new infatuation. But then the Venus-Mars, moves into the 7th. And between February the 16th and March the 11th, when the Venus and Mars are together, you see, Venus moves twice the speed around the solar system than Mars. Where Venus will move 1 degree per day, Mars takes 2 days to move 1 degree. So the Venus has caught up to the Mars, but soon the Venus will be moving off from the Mars. So this last 2 weeks of February, the first 11 days of March, this is an unusual emphasis on sexuality and passion, great for reviving a relationship, bringing it out of the doldrums, bringing the spark of romance. But many Leos and Leo risings could very well be becoming infatuated and starting a new relationship, as well as exciting new partnerships, contract offers, which takes us into business, because the focus is going to have a lot to do on negotiations, partnerships, and contracts. And then when the Sun and Mercury, the negotiator, goes into the 8th has a lot to do with more joint ventures, finances, So that could put a real spotlight with partnerships and contracts, more with financial matters. But be careful around the 24th, maybe the day before, a couple of days after, which is the full moon in your second house of income, but opposite Saturn. And that could go along with the rebellious, unexpected Uranus squaring the squaring the new moon from the seventh house of relationships on the 9th. So by the 24th to 25th, that unexpected upset in partnerships could be with the full moon, a separation or hitting a roadblock. But I think this is more business for most of you because the full moon is falling in your second house of income. I want to thank you for watching. If you like information on how to book an astrology reading or to sign up for my 2-question offer, visit my website at gardino.co. That's .co. Until next month, be safe and well.